Hey guys, Breakthrough Health and Life Coach Glenn Hattem here. I'm here with my coach, Tom Terwilliger. Tom and I today had an incredible session. Like always, super edgy, revealing, and walking away from this conversation with a few key things. We talked a lot about hormonal balance and looking into some of the different aspects for me that I wanted to explore and give attention to that will improve my results, not just with my physical attributes that I'm after, but also well-being and just longevity. And there's so much more to that as well. But we also today got into a conversation just around, in a previous session, we talked about embodiment in one's physiology, almost taking on a character, a role, so that you can start to send a message almost at a cellular level to getting your body to start to produce that image that's in your mind that you want to create. I mean, in a certain sense, I'm stepping up in a lot of ways in my life, and that's requiring me to show up and be a certain type of being, not just get from Glenn who's here to this future Glenn who's accomplishing all these great feats, but I've got to become that guy. And I can, like most, wait till then and then try to, concoct that and celebrate that. But the fast track and the more enjoyable path is to become that now. And what goes into that. And maybe, Tom, you could share a little bit about our conversation, because there's just so much that is going into practice this week for me, but is valuable, I think, to our audience. So.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think for almost anyone looking to create any sort of transformation, whether physical, emotional, financial, in the relationships, it requires, in many respects, us become, number one, we always talk about our best self, but what is our best self in those areas? In this particular area, for many of us, it's really finding our power and our strength. And this is what Glenn has: so much power, so much strength. And if you haven't met Glenn, he's got a very physical presence, but undertones that a little bit with a very feminine, softer, very connected to the earth and emotional side. And so to really start to personify what he's looking to achieve, and I think for everyone looking to achieve something in the physical realm, is finding that power. So how do we do it? And traditionally, a lot of times personal growth and development uses affirmations, or even an affirmation is just sort of stating something that you want to achieve. I am powerful, I am strong, I'm able to withstand, I have perseverance, whatever it might be that you want to personify. We make that as a statement. A declaration is something even just a little more powerful. It's the same statement, you might say, but done with power, including our physiology out loud, so the universal world can hear it in many respects. But even then, that's shy of the power of what I call vicarious modeling. And it's what kids do. Kids vicariously model adults. They vicariously model other kids. The Olympics is going on right now, and I'm sure that a lot of young athletes on the slopes here in Colorado, are vicariously modeling some of the gold medal winners in the Winter Olympics this year. So vicarious modeling is simply identifying a persona, a character, or a characteristic that you want to embody. Like, for example, go ahead.
It's amazing how we forget that we started doing that when we were kids, when we put on the Batman outfit or we put the cowboy guns on. It's like you were not to be messed with,
Oh yeah, you transform. You put those cowboy guns on, the hat, and you were transformed into that cowboy. If you put the Indian outfit on, you became a Native American. You were transformed. Superman, my kids don't want to take off their, little ones don't want to take off their Batman or their Superman outfit after Halloween, because they're personifying, they feel it, they feel strong, they feel powerful. And so we can do the same things in many respects by identifying that trait, that characteristic or character or individual that we feel like, wow, that person, he or she is, that's who I want to be. That's how I want to act. That's how I want to be perceived. And so what we can do is we can simply act it. We can simply put that armor on, that cape on, and become that in many respects. And sometimes it's only for 5 minutes. Sometimes it's an entire day. Other times it may be just when we need to find that power, for example. So,
And
yeah.
I also like what you said earlier in our conversation, which is there can be a discrepancy created from a declaration, very different from embodiment and role playing. What you're suggesting here is because when you're making that declaration out, it's like there's something very incongruent going on. I mean, well, hey, wait a second. Here's where I'm at. Here's where I ideally like to get to. So if I make this declaration here, we're still at a standstill.
Yeah, that's exactly right. In fact, in many respects, declarations can, for a lot of people, create conflict, internal conflict that keeps them from ultimately personifying that particular characteristic or character, because the brain wrestles with that. No, you're not. I did a video on this a few years ago. You can find it on maxmindset.com, where I talk about that. I can't remember the name of the video, but it's just like I'm looking in the mirror and saying, "You're powerful," and I'm, "No, you're not. You're rich." "No, you're not." And this is what goes on in our minds in many respects. So it actually weakens our ability to be able to do that. But
and you and I both know this too, as coaches, when we tell our clients, like, "You got this," and they're like, "No, I don't."
No, I don't.
They're at war with you.
The only way to really convince them that they have it is that when they get it, it becomes a big part of what I call the do then believe model. In many respects, for us to create transformation in our lives, and again, it doesn't matter where that transformation is taking place, what area of your life, to create transformation, we have to create some new beliefs. We have to create a little bit newer, sort of like renew ourselves around that, because if I'm going to do this, I need to become that, right? So, the declarations causes conflict, but if we can get that into the cells of the body through our physiology, the cells of the body is our unconscious mind in many respects. So if I can convince my unconscious mind from a cellular level, physiologically, by taking on that role of the warrior or the princess or the wizard, whatever it might be that I want to personify, that I need to balance what I need in my own personality, my own life, in order to achieve this transformation, this goal, this objective. I need more of being a wizard, someone who's just like gets it figured out and never takes no for an answer. Or I need to be the warrior who can take anything and step up no matter what the challenge might be. So in this case, let's call it the warrior. So I might take a posture. First I would identify, and this is what we talked about, identifying a character, a person that you can personify. Right. If you haven't watched Reacher yet, guys, the TV show, and maybe some of you don't watch TV at all, but there's an actor in Reacher who's personifies the physical energy of a warrior, but in a very tame, controlled way, which is a great personification of that strong masculine energy. And so what is it about that character? What is it about that particular person that I want to personify, that I admire, that if I had more of that, I could do this. And so physically mimicking that, physically modeling that on a regular basis till it gets into the cells of the body, while still convincing myself, this is who I am, this is who I will become. Ultimately, what will happen is, if you get strong enough at this and you practice on a regular basis, ultimately your own authentic self will begin to reveal itself. Because Glenn, you said something earlier that I thought was really interesting. It's just like, it's almost imagine your power, right? Kind of being caged in many respects and not knowing what it looks like. And as a result of not knowing what it looks like, having a little fear about opening that cage and letting it out. I don't know what it's going to do. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know if it's going to take out the whole world or do what it's going to do. So you can decide what it looks like. You create the persona. You decide. So now when you look into that cage, where it shouldn't be anyway, you can see what it is. You can see how it's going to act. You know what it's going to produce. And so you create that. So modeling vicariously those characteristics can be extraordinarily powerful, much more powerful than declarations.
Yeah. And I love what you mentioned earlier, which was like setting a container, a space from where you can play with these energies. So like even going into the gym, and I'm assuming here that you, back in the days as a Mr. America, as an Olympia competitor, you had music that you would create to come out on stage and embody, and bring the beast out to compete with these other, going neck and neck with other competitors that had great quads and had, incredible arms. That there was, was the energy that the audience felt or the judges felt. It wasn't just, this person's physique. It was like what was embodied in that. And I'm assuming you, and I'll let you take over here, but like you probably had some ideas in mind when you walked on stage there in front of all those people.
Yeah, that's a great observation, because it's exactly right. And if you want to take it to the next level, that's some of the things you can do. You use visualization. You don't just have to. In fact, in many respects, it's even more powerful to use visualization in this respect, in the embodiment of these characteristics or character. And having some music, for me, my God, when the Olympia came along, I found music. And for me, it wasn't the modern, whatever the music was at the time, the 80s, popular 90s music, whatever it was. I found music personally much more powerful, emboldening for me from movies. You know, something like a Conan or Black Rain had something that created, and who knows how to create emotion better than Hollywood. And they use music very effectively to do that. So if the emotion of who you want to become, you can feel it in a particular piece of music. And a lot of times that's done through Hollywood music. You find that, you download it, and you start to listen to that while you're practicing your role, visualizing that role. And even, and again, there's levels to this. The first one is identifying who you want to vicariously model, or what you want to vicariously model in terms of characteristic, characters, physical components, whatever it might be. The second one is then starting to model it. What are some of the components? Short times during the day, short spurts, getting a little bit longer. Third level is using that, anchoring it, you might say. So here I am. I've become this, I'm feeling this persona. I'm starting to embody it. Now I want to anchor it into my body in such a way that when I need it, when the default is to drop down, to feel weak, to feel defeated, to feel like that whatever I'm trying to accomplish is impossible. When you feel that, or you're confronted in some way with something, that bam, you step back into that anchor, you tap yourself, whatever it might be, clenching your fist, is it called an anchor? And then you can take that persona into the scenario where it's now challenged. It's under duress, you might say now. And if you can present that under duress, now you're pretty close to the next level, which is ultimately letting your own authentic self take on that persona, and the slight subtle changes that is you. It's sort of like, it's like, you know, watching Bob Ross paint and doing Bob Ross by the numbers, you might say. And you do that enough times, then ultimately you add your own tree. Ultimately, you change the color from Van Dyke brown to different brown, and it becomes yours then. You own it. And it doesn't have to take 4 months to evolve. This is something that can happen over the course of 3-4 weeks. In some cases, less than that. But yes,
if you get the reps in, you got to get the repetitions in. You got to do it over and 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 over. Over and over and over.
And that's why that's the point. That's such a good point, is that it's just like sometimes it's difficult to do that. You know, if I'm at my desk a good time, you know, it's like, what do I do? Stand up, walk around like I'm Hercules. You know, I can stop for a minute. I can visualize it, especially when you're feeling weak, when you feel you're up against something, you're working, and it's just like, oh, it's making me feel, I feel like hiding right now. Instead, go into your visualization, put your headset on, listen to that music. Even if it's just 5 minutes, that becomes the repetition, and again and again and again, until it starts to become you.
Yeah, having that music that triggers that as well. So the particular music that you like, that just gets you fired up, or creates that, helps you get into that character.
You remember, and you know, I happen to be not politically, but I'm a Tarantino fan. I love his movies. Yep. There's a couple of scenes in Kill Bill where she, Uma Thurman, not Thurman, I'm trying to remember who it was that played the bride, but every time she like saw like her enemy or was ready to go into battle, there was this old, it was like from the old Chinese movies, woo wah, woo wah, woo wah. It was like this light went off. It was like she heard it. And it was like that sent her into her warrior mode. Yep. And so you can do the same thing with your own music. Decide what it is for you. You know, I still hear music that, when I listen to something that I use to pose and create that persona at the Olympia level, it puts me right back there. I'm immediately anchored into that power without question.
I love it. Hey, I think that's a good call for today. Tom, as always, like pleasure. I'm so appreciative. I'm looking forward to this next week here. We're going into week 10, new routine.
Routine.
It's a surprise. It's excruciating. It's going to be so fun, so edgy. Can't wait to share in this next video this week. But thank you for everybody else listening in today and our awesome call we had today. So thank you, Tom. And
Thank you guys. Thank you, everybody.
thank you, everybody.
Talk soon.
Okay.